All right, my name is Matthew Kemps. I am the co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group at eXp Realty, and we have
Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
And our guest.
I'm Elizabeth Riley with Luxe Property Group.
Bingo. So we have Elizabeth on. We're going to get to learn a little bit more about Elizabeth, kind of get your full story. I've get to know you pretty well over the last couple months. Matt's never met you, so let's kind of throw this in there as if, who's Elizabeth Riley? Tell us all about you and kind of go from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here with you guys, and great to meet Matt. So
I'm excited to meet you. I've heard nothing but amazing things. So
I pay people really well.
That's, I mean, whatever it takes.
That's whatever it takes. How far back do you want me to go? Real estate journey? Let's
go back to Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. In real estate?
Yep. Starting off in real estate and why you got your license and go from there.
Yeah. So I have been licensed almost 20 years. Got started in Atlanta, Georgia. My husband was transferred. He worked for Dell Computer for 25 years, and he was transferred to Atlanta. And we had rental properties, investment properties. That was our big game plan for the long term and all the things. And so we would buy duplexes and live in one side and, owner occupied, things like that. And so we were in Atlanta, and my CPA, we're sitting like this across from my CPA, and he's looking at all of our numbers. He says, one of you has to get your license. And I just was like, looking away, not me. I'm not interested in that at all. I was working for a famous tennis player named Stan Smith.
Okay.
And so we were doing really cool corporate events around major sporting events. And I literally the next week was going to Greece to work on the Greece Olympics. So real estate wasn't sexy. That did not sound exciting to me. But my husband was like, I have the full-time job. I have the benefits. You're getting your license. So I went to Keller Williams. They were the only company at the time that would take me part-time. And it was a hobby. It was one of those things where, okay, I'm just going to kind of tiptoe into this thing and do what I have to do, not because I want to, but because I have to. And started, just working with friends and people that I knew, and started enjoying what I was doing. And it wasn't really a job. And so built my business in Atlanta. And then in 2008, the world crashed in the world of real estate, and we were transferred to Austin, Texas. And it was interesting because I didn't really know anybody. I had one child at the time, and we lived in a townhouse community where there were 44 townhomes, and I had to meet people just because I'm moving here, meet people for my son. And everybody I talked to, they're like, you're getting your real estate license? Like, it's a horrible market. And for me, I saw opportunity because Atlanta was a horrible market when I left there, right? So I think it's all perspective. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, if everybody's head's in the sand and people are still buying and selling, and where can I show up and serve? And I just started meeting people, and that's how I built my business here. In 2014, I was still at Keller Williams. So I was there for 10 years, incredibly grateful for my time there. 2014, I was number one. We had 650 agents in the market center, and I went home that day, and I said, I'm getting out of the business because I was on that hamster wheel at that point. My husband was traveling internationally all the time. He was gone all the time. I had 4 children, and I was kind of a single mom with benefits trying to make this business work and drowning. So I lost my passion, lost my joy for the industry, even though I was on top. Everybody sees the positive and the good, and they don't really look behind the scenes sometimes.
How long did it take you to go from part-time to starting to love it and enjoying it?
I had a unique situation because I had a husband that covered all of the bills and things like that. When we got married, we had always planned to live under his salary because when we had kids, I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I realized quickly I'm a better mom because I work. So I don't think I really made it more of a business until I moved to Texas. Okay. And I realized all the changes and all the challenges and all the failures. A lot of the lessons were in the failures. Kind of, that was my training wheels in Atlanta, if you will, because I didn't really have to have it as a full-time focus. So I don't think I created more of the business mentality until I moved to Austin.
Which was what year exactly?
2008.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about the whole CPA thing. So was the idea with the CPA designed to, because you were purchasing properties, it was so that you could be the real estate agent on the buy side to avoid having to compensate another real estate agent? I mean, why was it your CPA that suggested it?
Yeah, it wasn't about that. It was about deductions and things that, I couldn't take off write-offs for certain things. We had a number of rental properties, and so he said, look, here's the numbers. I mean, if you have your license, you're able to take these deductions. Because you don't have your license, you're not able to. And it was significant. And
so it was about the properties you were purchasing.
It was about the properties, not the buy-sell agent side, that
Right,
was
got it.
something later on I
I
figured
just
out.
asked because, frankly, I kind of knew the answer. But,
Yeah.
for the audience and everything
Yeah.
like that, a lot of people are like, wait a minute, she decided to become a real estate agent because her CPA told her so. Like,
Yeah,
it's a head
that's fair.
scratcher if people don't think about it. And then the other piece that I noticed that you mentioned that I am so happy to hear you be forthcoming about, because unfortunately I don't get enough of it from real estate agents, is the fact that you were willing to admit that in the beginning when you were part-time, you had kind of a safety net.
Yeah.
You had the ability to, not have to crush it. It's fantastic that you went on to do that, but I think that sometimes there's a misconception as maybe like a potential stay-at-home mother that part-time real estate agents can somehow, do a work-life balance with raising children and still make a living wage. It's not that easy.
No, I don't think there's any. I don't think there's anything like balance, right? We have to figure out. We
Yeah.
say this all the time. I want more balance. I don't think that exists, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times I say, I'm a hot mess. I've got a lot of balls in the air. I'm just trying to catch the glass ones. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more growth and transparency that people appreciate rather than making it look like, oh, I've got the baby on the hip and I'm schlepping houses and I'm doing all the things. And it's not, you're right, it's not that easy.
I love the mindset thing, though, that you made mention of. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, so moving down here, bigger market, all of those things. And I can totally, that resonates with me quite a bit. Just,
Yeah.
That you came here in a down market. Granted, when I moved here, it was not a down market, but COVID hit within 90 days of me moving here. So I moved here in December of 2019.
Yeah.
And then, we're trying to, I had a very successful business up in Cleveland, and we were going to go back and forth, and we still do. But it was, really about hitting the ground running down here. I didn't know one person when I moved down here.
Yeah.
And COVID hit, and there were a lot of people that were like, well, we're screwed. And I thought, and don't get me wrong, 2020 was a phenomenal year, but nobody knew that it was going to be at first.
Right.
And my mentality was, COVID doesn't exist. And I don't mean that from like a political or virus thing. It's like, I cannot.
Yeah, it's noise.
I can't subscribe to this. So that's, your story is, I like it. So you move here in 08.
Yes.
You start going full time because you
Yes.
realize you're a better mother when you're working,
Yeah.
right?
I
Sanity's
still
real.
say that. Yes.
And so, one of the things that we try to focus on is kind of giving back to the real estate community. A lot of people go full time. You had the experience over in Atlanta. You come to a brand new market. I doubt you knew very many people. You didn't have a very large sphere of influence, I would imagine.
Right.
How'd you do it?
One person at a time. I mean, I literally had to create my environment. So, like I mentioned, I lived in a townhome of 44 townhomes. I still own that property. And I knocked on doors. Not to knock on doors to get business. That is not my personality at all. I mean, like hindsight's 2020.
I was going to say, you knock on doors?
No, not at
Yeah.
all. Not for that. Because my business is 100% referral. Mostly Sphere, but now it's transitioned to mostly agent-to-agent referrals from all over the country, right? But my personality, most people don't know this because I'm very adaptive, is I'm very much an introvert. And knocking on doors, I mean, and that was the problem at KW. And I loved KW, but when I got to where I was, I said, okay, what's next? The top producers, I couldn't get past that. And they said, well, are you in MAPS coaching? No. Why not? Well, I talked to them. They said, I'm going to have to knock on doors and cold call. And I said, I'm not willing to do that. And the leadership in that office said, well, you don't believe in your business. And for me, I was like, no. Real estate's not one size fits all. It's not check a box and this is how you're going to be successful. There's a lot of people that have been successful in different ways. And so for me, I was like, well, what's authentic to me? So I knocked on doors. I had my little guy who was 18 months old at the time. We knocked on 44 doors and said, hey, I'm Elizabeth. This is Tripp. We just moved in from Atlanta. We're down the street. Everybody's watching the moving vans. They want to know, right? Everybody's nosy. Well, who just moved in down there? So I just created that opportunity. And I didn't talk about real estate. I said, hey, we just moved here from Atlanta. Oh, my gosh, what are you doing here? Well, my husband, and you get into the conversations. And anything you do, you build the relationship. And then the business is going to come if the business is meant to come. And so 44 homes, I met all of my neighbors. And I went back and I wrote a handwritten note. Dorothy, it was so great meeting you. I'm so excited to be in the neighborhood. I can't wait to see you more in the future. I didn't put a business card in there. I didn't say, oh, by the way, if you know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. They all asked me what I was going to do, though. Oh, are you stay-at-home mom? Actually, no, I was in real estate in Atlanta. Oh, my gosh, really? What's that like? What are you going to do here? Real estate. Are you crazy?
Right.
No,
Right after 2008.
correct. People are buying and selling all the time. That's what's cool about our industry. We have a need. It's security, it's safety, it's shelter, it's all these things. And so all those other people that had that negative mindset because they felt like they were in that market, I had an opportunity. So I try to look at things like that. So 44 people all of a sudden in my database that I'm building a relationship with.
Yeah.
My little guy was in swim school. I met all the moms. I mean, still to this day, some of my biggest supporters, my biggest referral sources were from, Elmer Swim School. My child was in Children's Morning Out. My first deal came from that. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you're a real estate agent. My friend's moving here. Can you help them?" Absolutely. They're buying in Leander. I'm like, "Do you work in Leander?" "Yes, I work in Leander." And then I went back. I was like, "Where the heck is Leander?"
Yeah.
Right? So that's how my business built. And if you love on people and you make sure that you're taking care of them and you treat each one like they're your one and only client, like the business is going to come and they're going to support you. And that's what I've done.
I mean, I've been told that, I haven't, Matt has spoke very highly of you, and obviously your success speaks for itself. And so I would envision that you have a lot of people that ask you kind of some of the similar questions that I just went through, how did you do it? Again, your story resonates with me very similar. Just when I moved here, it was like, I need to get in front of as many people as I possibly can.
Yeah.
No matter what, right? Do you ever have situations when either you're, I don't know if you mentor or I'm sure you ask questions, but do you ever run into situations where people act as though like, that's just, I can't do that. I can't get in front of people. I don't really like to go out. I've heard, a lot of what Matt and I do is a lot of training for agents, right?
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is like what you just described is like the number one thing that we talk about doing because it doesn't cost anything. And if you don't have a bunch of deals going, well, what else are you doing?
Right.
And
how busy are you really?
Right. And the pushback that I
Busy
get,
versus productive.
I'm going to give you just a handful of some of the objections, and I'd love for you to tell me your thoughts on this.
Sure.
Number one, I don't drink, so I don't go to bars, and I don't go out. Number two, I don't have kids, so there is no PTA or anything along those lines. Number three, I'm an introvert. I'm so pumped that you said that because I want to hear your answer. I'm a natural introvert. I'm not really looking to make a ton of friends, so like it's hard for me to really get out there and put myself out there. Number four, I'm not super attractive or good looking, and so I don't have the confidence per se to go out there and really put myself out there. But I'm really good at negotiating contracts, so on and so forth. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think everybody has an excuse for anything that they want to have an excuse
100%.
for. And I think that is a very lonely place to be. It's like, okay, let's not focus on all the negatives. Let's focus on the positives. Okay, great. I mean, I'm not a coach per se or a mentor, but I am in different settings.
But you're qualified to give advice.
Right. And I give advice and I'm like, well, I can just tell you what my experience is. The interesting thing is, the statistics show that 83% of agents don't stay in touch with their past clients. Mm-hmm. I think that's crazy.
Yeah. Agreed.
I also think that's an opportunity. So be the 17%. What I'm doing is not rocket science. It's being consistent. Mm-hmm. Consistency leads to opportunity. And every single month I'm in front of them. So when people are giving me these, and I have a lot of agents around the country that I teach and I coach and I do all these different things because I love the collaboration piece. I hear this stuff all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, let's step back. What are you passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about helping people. No. I'm not talking about real estate. What are you passionate about? What do you love to do? Who are you, right? What do you enjoy doing? Do you love cycling? Oh my gosh, I love cycling. Okay, well, put yourself in those circles where you're passionate about something because when somebody sees your passion, they're going to know that seeps through in other areas of your business. So if I'm a cyclist, which I am not,
right,
and I'm in a cycling crew, people already are attracted to me because we have like similarities. So you build that relationship. Nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. If you lead with business and you lead with, commission breath or compensation breath or desperation, I need to sell a house. Like none of us want to work with that.
Yeah.
I want everybody to see me and say, oh, there's my friend Elizabeth. She happens to be really great in real estate. What I don't want is, oh my gosh, there's Elizabeth Run. She's going to talk about real estate. But I want to add value in the way that I can add value. So like my marketing has nothing to do with real estate. And people are like, what are you talking about? I don't do just listed, just solds. Well, why not? Because nobody cares.
right.
It's not about me. It's about how can I serve and show up in the moment. So like COVID, great answer. Like example right there. It's like, I am a mom. I'm a person. I'm feeling the same thing you're doing. What can we do differently? And so, I mean, for example, we sent, are your four walls giving you the squeeze, right? Like a fun little lemonade thing and, let the Luxe Property Group help you make lemonade out of lemons. And then we sent Kool-Aid lemonade packets. What I didn't recognize is all the moms are like, oh my gosh, we needed another project today. Thank you so much. And they're posting everything on social and stories. I'm like, they understand because they feel what we're feeling.
Yep.
If I sent a, hey, just listed, like you're not being current or relevant or being real.
Right.
So I ask people, what are you excited about? Okay, if you're excited about cycling, go cycle. Go talk to those people. They all want to know what they want what you're doing, and just figure it out piece by piece. Social media, oh my gosh, that's a huge. I'm not a big social media person. I'm on there because I think I have to be there and be a little bit visible because of all the things I'm in. Go in there and be consistent. Go find 5 people a day. I don't care, 10 people a day. These are people that already know, like you, and trust you in one way or another. Go compliment them, console them, or congratulate them. Don't just say like and a little emoji. Write a handwritten note. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry your dog died. I just want to let you know I saw that and I feel for you. Like if there's anything I can do. Or go take it a step further, depending on the relationship. Go to Etsy.
Yeah.
Find a dog pic, get a picture of their dog and have them make a drawing of their pet and send it to them. Build that relationship in whatever you do. Just figure out what's passionate, what your passions are and what's authentic to you, and then the rest is going to come. I think it's noise. When people say, I can't do these things, well, why? I mean, I just think it's noise.
I'm with you. And I love, I know we just met, but I have these conversations on a semi-regular basis, and I've been deemed, I'll just use the swear word, I've been deemed an asshole for having kind of, similar. So I'm constantly looking for validation,
That you're not an asshole?
Well, I'm definitely an asshole.
Oh, okay.
But I'm looking,
Well, we got that.
I'm looking for the validation that what I'm saying isn't just insane.
I know.
Right?
Don't you think you're crazy sometimes? You're like,
Yes.
And sometimes I think it's too simple, too elementary. I mean, for the longest time, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to think I'm so silly doing these kind of things.
Right.
And then when I'm in classes or I'm in front of a room or something, my rooms are packed and I'm like, it doesn't click for me. I'm like, this is really simple in my world. But then to somebody else, picking up a phone and cold calling is super simple in their world. So I think you just pick up nuggets from all these different people and figure out what's going to make you tick and make you excited about the industry you're in.
Go ahead.
And I think the big thing is like, in order to sell properties, you need to know people. People buy properties, right? So if you don't know a lot of people, there's no way that you're going to sell multiple properties.
Right.
So it's all about getting in front of as many people as possible. And everybody at this table, as far as I'm concerned, is in a healthy, committed relationship.
Yeah.
But I got divorced in my late 20s, and I was single in my 30s, and it's like a completely different world than being single in your 20s. And the one thing that I identified, because I had some great relationships. Not everybody works out, but I had some great relationships. Nothing ended in like a dumpster fire. And I have had people come to me and say, I really just want to find a partner. Like I'm sick of being single. I really want to find someone good. And what's funny to me is that everything that we just described in respect to finding a good client, whether it's a buyer or seller, and the way that you're going about doing things is the exact way that I instruct people to go about finding somebody that they could maybe work with in love, right? Like the cycling thing. It's like, well, what do you do? Like, where are you at? And put the word out there. Hey, I'm looking for someone, right? Because you don't get what you don't ask for.
Right. And to me, it's just, I don't know. I think it's sometimes we overcomplicate things. And it's just, we're in the people business. We're in the relationship business.
Yep.
And I think that, some of my biggest supporters have never bought a house from me because they already had a house.
Right.
But they see how I show up. And I think I say this all the time, comparison kills joy, because too many times we're all looking around, oh my gosh, what's Matt doing? Like if I looked at what Matt was doing, or either Matt, going, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing. I'm not worthy. I can't do that, right? And then you get in this negativity and you're not going to do anything well. So I just put my head down and I'm old school, like the same thing I've been doing for 20 years, but it works for me.
Right.
And so I just think comparison kills joy, and there's too many shiny objects. There's too many people, putting themselves out on social media, making it look like they all have it together, and they don't, and I don't have it together. And so it's just, I just think you need to figure out what you need to be doing.
Is that your phone?
No, it's me.
No.
It's out there.
Oh, I was like, that
Can you
wasn't.
pause this real quick? I can mute it.
You can walk out.
Yeah.
I was like, I turned off my phone.
Matt is like the noisiest person we have in this office. He's got a big booming voice and like 900 gadgets that go off on a semi-regular basis. But getting back to what you said about the comparison being the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And then the other piece of it that I feel like is important to touch on is how perfection is the killer of innovation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So those are two things that I feel very passionate about, because those are the two pieces of what I seem to, find when people are like, how do I get better? It's like, well, number one, stop looking at what everyone else is doing, focus on what works for you. And then number two, stop trying to make everything perfect, right? There's this huge imposter syndrome in our business that I think is just a killer for a lot of agents. And thirdly, I love that you mentioned that, we talked about it. There's a lot of flashy things, the comparison. I love the honesty in everything that you're saying right now in respect to how your business is thriving, because I sit here with agents on a regular basis, and I'll give it the 80-20 rule. I mean, 20 of them just act like they just got a real estate license, bought a BMW, and boom.
I've been in this business too long, and when I was first building my business in different markets, I mean, there have been some amazing people that have shown up in my life that have helped quite a bit. But then there's a lot of people that don't really give you any information, and it's like, well, that's not helpful. So I want to be helpful. When people come to me, I want to ask a lot. I ask a lot of questions, right? Because I can sit here and tell you everything, but until I understand how you want to build your business and how you want to build your business and why you're different and what your goals are, because goals aren't necessarily financial. Right. And I think sometimes real estate agents, especially, they're like, oh yeah, I want the car, I want the house, I want the boat, I want all these things. And I mean, that doesn't drive everybody. Materialistic things don't drive me. Is it nice? Sure, sometimes. I don't care about that kind of stuff, though. So not everybody cares about the same things you care about. So if you ask a lot of questions and figure out how to get them there, then I think, just be honest. I don't, everybody's time is valuable. We can't buy more time. We can't get more time. So if somebody's going to come to me and ask me a question, I want to make it well worth their time. I don't want to just give them fluff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I love it. Kemps, anything you want to ask? I've got 900 questions because we haven't met, so I don't.
I've got 900 answers.
I don't want to take over this entire podcast. So today's what, the 16th, 18th. So we are right at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I've been asking a lot of agents. Again, this one I feel like is going to do very, very well because you're qualified to give this advice. Is there anything coming up in 2025 that you're going to be doing that might be a little bit different than you've done over the last couple months or even year? Or even goals that you're kind of like, I really want to get better at this?
Yeah, so it's interesting because 2024, the stats are showing, and I don't know who's qualified for the stats, but I keep hearing this over and over, and our CEO says it, so it must be gospel, that 2024 was the hardest year in real estate in 35 years.
Okay.
And so I know in talking to people, a lot of people have had some challenges this year, and so I want to be sensitive to that always. I haven't had a hard year. My first part of the year started really hard. I give a lot of my business away and I share a lot of business, but I'm going to close out and it doesn't matter the number because I don't really care about the number, but I care about the families I got to serve. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to close out the year serving a lot of families. December is always my biggest month. I have 4 closings this week and I still have 2 more before the end of the year. And so I'm still head down. I'm not coasting at all. 2025, I'm excited though, because I think a lot of people have had a hard year, and that's kind of their reset. And so they're going to come back rejuvenated and excited, and I want to pour in. We've got a lot of training set up. We've got a lot of events set up. We have a lot of intentional conversations set up. I always pick a word. I know a lot of people do that every year.
I do a mantra, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just like, there's a lot of words that define who you can be, but it's like, okay, what do I want to focus on? And I've really been sitting in this for me for some time. So I love that you asked this question. But my word for next year is growth. Mm-hmm. In a number of different ways. Is it really? Well, and in a number of different ways. I am very good at being everything for everybody, but I haven't been really good for being what I need for me. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that. So I've got a number of things already on the books for personal growth, and I am scared to death. But I booked them. I'm committed, right? My friend says, "Are you interested or are you committed?" And I'm like, "I am committed." So I have them booked, and I'm scared to death. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this many days and all the things." But I'm like, this is what I need for growth, because if I'm always telling people, if you're comfortable, it's the opposite of growth, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you're complacent, and I haven't been growing, I've been really good at helping everybody else. So for me, it's personal growth, but also agent growth. I'm changing some things, and I'm excited about the market. I'm excited about the industry. I think buyer fatigue is a real thing, and I think it's going to wear off hopefully in the spring. So I don't have any set goals. I don't set financial goals because I feel like personally, and this is not a knock against anybody, but if I say I want to sell 25 million, I'm focused on that goal for me, where sometimes it'll take my focus off of what I need to be doing in the moment, right? So if I just treat each of my clients like my one and only, and if I do what I'm supposed to do on a daily basis, those goals are going to come and they're going to be met. So I'm just going to get back to the basics. I'm setting up more systems and processes. I've hired some people to help me do that because I'm one of those people that just jumps and I'll figure it out. So I don't have a lot of systems and processes. And if you look behind the scenes, it's kind of a mess.
Is that name Block?
I am working on implementing Block. I have my assistant helping with that because I don't have the focus to pull it together. So I'm hoping that will help, but that'll help more of my team in the background. So I'm not running around with my hair on fire and they're trying to get information from me. But growth, I'm excited about growth for me. I'm excited about growth for our agents. I'm excited about growth for our company. I think we're really well positioned going into 2025.
I've been saying building and not growth, but I think it's one and the
same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
One of the things you touched on that I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget about. So you had mentioned 2024, and it wasn't a terrible year for you, and that's fantastic. Congratulations. What do you for those that are sitting on the edge of their seat, how do you think you did that? What's the why?
Because I was consistent.
Consistency.
I didn't listen to what everybody was saying. I didn't worry about the interest rates. And it was funny. I spoke at Inman. I was on stage on a panel, and they kept talking about, it was kind of like the sky is falling thing again. The interest rates and the elections and what's going to happen in the spring.
When Boat Ride was getting a little negative with it.
Yeah. And I just kind of sat there, and when they got to me, I'm like, I don't care what the interest rates are doing. I don't care what the election's doing. Interest rates go up and down all the time. There's always elections, guys. Every 4 years, for sure, there's elections. Like, this is not new. And I think for me, I've been in it for 20 years. And so surrounding yourself with people that have experience, there's a lot of agents in this market that just got their license in 20, 21, 22, right? They haven't really been through shifting markets. So if you're consistent, it doesn't matter what the market does. I am still building relationships with people. I am writing handwritten notes all the time. I'm getting belly to belly. I'm having coffee with people. Like, I don't talk about real estate, but it always comes up. So I'm just telling people, let's set a plan. There's 12 months. Write down January through December. Write down 3 lines per each month. Okay, what direct mail piece are you going to send? And that can be a handwritten note. How many lunches and coffees are you going to have to build the relationship? Don't look at them as a paycheck. Nobody wants that. I mean, it's not hard. And then consistently do it every single month. You can't just like throw out a letter and hope for the best and hope that they're going to think of you. I mean, I just closed a deal on Monday, probably my toughest in all my 20 years, probably one of my top 3 toughest. My lender told me it was the toughest one he's ever done in 25 years. It was just, It wasn't the clients, it was the complexity of the situation. But what was interesting is that person, my buyer, was not in my sphere. I never marketed to him. I never sent him any notes. You know why? Because he was the head of my kids' school, elementary, middle, and high. You know how many real estate agents are at that school?
Right.
I just assumed.
Hundreds.
Yeah. I assumed, oh my gosh, I mean, I never even gave it a second thought. And he calls me and he says, hey, we're looking at selling our house and buying another one. We'd like to talk to you. Sure, let's sit down. And I was like, wow. And he said, and he told his wife, he goes, I've watched her. I see how she is in the industry. I see how she treats people. That's why she's our agent. She's one of the best there is. People are watching you no matter what you're doing. So I'm just treating the people in those, and it was a reminder to me going, oh my gosh, right? How am I showing up every single day? How am I treating those people that know those people? So it's not rocket science. The markets are always going to change, but just write your list of the people that know you, like you, and trust you. Be intentional, care about them as a person. And like I said, they might not buy or sell from you, but they know other people that will.
Right. You mentioned something that I really, 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 really want to touch on because I don't think it gets talked about enough. So in the beginning of this, you'd made mention that 100% of your business is referral business. It's coming from sphere of influence and everything along those lines. And as a newer agent, that can be very, very frustrating because they look at it as, okay, I don't really need to make any kind of initial investments or anything like that to build my business. But you've made mention of getting coffees. You've made mention of writing handwritten notes. You've made mention of doing business cards and everything like that. So there is a financial investment in your business.
There is.
Right.
Yeah, but I tell people don't spend money till you're making money. You don't have to spend a lot. I think what happens is a lot of people, and I'll just tell you what I tell the newer agents. First of all, don't spend a lot of money on your marketing because people are going to throw it away.
Right.
You want to make an impact on the way to the trash can. So what's the impact? What's your intention? What I think is super interesting is I get these all the time where somebody, and again, everybody has their own way of doing business, but I'll get the magnets that have the 3 football schools and the agent's picture on the magnet. And those things are expensive. But they'll have the school, like they'll have UT and Baylor and Houston. Great. Well, I went to A&M. So that automatically goes in the trash, first and foremost. Second of all, I'm in SEC. UT is now. But before, it's like that, you just missed the mark. You spent a lot of money and you're just blindly sending information. Also, I'm not going to put nobody's picture or face goes on my refrigerator except my kids. I'm not going to put my real estate agent's picture on the fridge, right? So, yes, you put a lot of money and invested in that, but not in the right way. So what I do instead is I went to Canva, and on one side I have the SEC, on the other side I have the Big 12, and I make it fun, and I send that to everybody. It has a longer shelf life, and I've spent maybe $1.50 with shipping, handling, everything, but it has a longer shelf life. So my stuff isn't going in the trash automatically because I have a broader reach. So what I tell my agents is, you live somewhere. Yes, I live somewhere. Well, I live in an apartment. Awesome. A lot of apartment people are going to buy at some point.
100%.
Become the mayor of your community. If you're in a neighborhood, become the mayor of your neighborhood. Is there a Facebook page? No? Oh, create it. Don't spam people. Be a resource for them. Hey, here's what's going on in the neighborhood. Create things in the neighborhood. Host the Halloween pizza party beforehand. Or more than that, what I did when I moved into my neighborhood, my son was like, Mom, there's 3 real estate signs in the neighborhood. I was like, yeah. He goes, does that make you mad? I said, no, it's my own fault. He goes, why? And I said, because I've been a secret agent. They don't know me.
Yeah.
So create Front Porch Fridays. Just send a note to the neighbors. Hey, let's all get to know each other. Once a quarter, once a month, I don't care. Everybody brings something to share. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You just have to be creative.
Oh, I agree with the cost that's associated with it. It's just one thing since we just met, my value add that I've been doing for years is I've been going to the real estate trainings. We partnered with Craig Proctor Association for a long time. I've done more real estate training courses than probably 80% of the real estate agents that are in this market with the intention of being a self-proclaimed real estate coach, right? Because real estate agent success is my success.
Right.
Nobody really wants to talk to a lender as the first thing that they do, even though it's probably best practices to do so. It's not necessarily what people do organically, but they do listen to their agents because looking at homes and thinking about where to live and where you're going to have your holidays, it's fun and sexy, right? So I've identified that going consumer direct is a problem. So it's like, what value do we bring to agents? And yes, we do the happy hours and the barbecue and stuff like that, but the really good agents are the ones that gravitate towards thinking about ways that we cooperatively can go after new business.
Right.
And so I have a lot of pushback from time to time when we sit down and we talk about things that we're going to do. I agree with you. Purchasing leads is very, very expensive, and it's, don't spend money that you don't have. But I watch agents not close deals and take 100% of their commission and don't invest any of it into their business.
Right.
And they'll say things to me, not about you specifically, but I'll use you as an example. Like, well, Elizabeth Riley does a ton of business and she is all referral. And you're saying it. But I think that it's important because especially the newer agent, takes everything literally, especially when it's coming from someone who's qualified to give the advice. And I think that they forget about the magnets, the Front Porch Friday, where I would envision that you may buy an hors d'oeuvre or, purchase a 12-pack of White Claw or whatever. Like there is financial investment in everything that we do, even if we're working just our sphere of influence. And I just want to make that public service announcement because, in my opinion, there are way too many agents that think that having basic conversations with friends and family is going to make them Elizabeth Riley, who's going to do 7 transactions this month.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is very low. in this industry.
Agreed.
And so you
But
have
it's
to,
not zero.
It's not zero. So you have to still invest in your business. And that's where I really recognized I had a hobby versus a business. And I had to change that. You don't have to spend a ton of money though. Like I'll have new agents going, oh my gosh, I got to go buy signs and lockboxes and all these things. I was like, hold on, time out. Do you have a listing?
Right.
No. Then why are you buying all this stuff? You don't need to buy that or borrow it once you have it, right? Just let's focus on what we can do that can bring in income now and opportunities. But my Front Porch Fridays, there's no cost involved in that.
Right.
It's relationship equity, right? Walking around the neighborhood. My kids are part of my business. I have shirts that I'll say Luxe Property Group and it says the Luxe Squad, call my agent, and they go in the neighborhood. So people love kids. Right.
Totally.
I pay my kids for the longest time. I paid them in ice cream, but now they're older and they're like, yeah, that's not going to work anymore. But they're putting
smart.
they got smart and they got older and smart. They're like, hey, but there's ways you can do it without going. I've never purchased, knock on wood, purchased a lead.
Right.
Again, I don't know what to do with that lead. And I'm going to be honest. If I have a lead, I'm going to call them. I don't like talking on the phone.
Yeah.
Right. But I get involved in the schools. If you have kids, PTA, get involved in the schools. If you don't have kids, somebody has kids. Like the little leagues, you can go sponsor. I don't even have kids in the basketball programs or things like that called Nueva, right? There's Nueva that has the whole city has all these basketball camps. They reached out to me, hey, as a business owner, would you like to sponsor one of the teams? Y'all, it's brilliant. It's $325. My name goes on the back of all the shirts. Let's think about the marketing aspect there. First of all, it's really, really cool when there's kids with your name on the back of their shirts. When my kids did play, it was really fun when it was another real estate agent. Their kid had to wear my name on the back of their shirt. But they don't just wear them to play games. They wear them to school. They wear them to go get burgers afterwards. So you've got to think of how far your marketing dollars are going to reach. $300 for a whole season. And then they wear those shirts longer. Like that's not going in the trash can.
We sponsored a baseball team and made them change their name to the Gold Stars.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you just have to be creative. I mean, yes, I've got a very strong business in my world. I mean, there's a lot. I'm a little fish in a lot of ponds, and I like being the little fish because I'm always learning and growing, but I'm a big fish to others. But there's lessons that people can learn, right? They have to listen for the lessons. I tell them that. I've been doing this for 20 years. This didn't just come out of the gates. And not only that, I did this in 2 markets. So if I can pick up a business and in a failing market, I can do the same thing, being consistent because I know what worked before, then there's no excuses. People are making excuses. Quit
100%.
focused on the excuse and figure out what the solution is.
I'm going to replay this podcast 100 times for some of these agents that because you're like the female version of me right now when I talk to some of these agents, but I'm not a real estate agent, so what do I know?
Yeah.
So, just a little bit more about you in respect to the business. Is there any particular, and I know that you love working with anyone you possibly could, but is there any particular facet of the business in regards to whether it's listings, buyers, investors? Is there any piece of the business that you really love the most, or is it broad stroke real estate in general?
Yeah, my business is evolving.
Okay.
And I'm evolving. Like I said, when we talk about growth, I was at Keller Williams for 10 years, but I've been at eXp Realty now for almost 10 years, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother focus on the opportunity that I didn't even realize was an opportunity. I primarily like listings. My background's marketing.
Okay.
I like the creativity on that side. Being with buyers, if I know them, that's great. If I know them well, that's great. But again, being an introvert, it's very hard to just make small talk all day long and, let's talk about this. So
Can I pause you right there real quick because
yeah.
it ties into what we were just talking about? When you're doing a listing, are you making any sort of financial investment when you're marketing that property, or are you just going and doing a presentation, getting the listing agreement signed, and then putting it on the MLS?
Oh no, there's definitely financial.
Is that right? So there's money involved.
There's money involved in
Okay.
the marketing. Yeah, absolutely.
Good to know. Because
and if you're a real estate agent that's taking iPhone photos, you might want to just get out of the business now because it's.
Would you
crazy
mind
to
running
me.
us through kind of just the what I call it the receipt breakdown of what you may invest into marketing a listing?
Well, sure. So I send in a stager
Okay.
for all of my my properties because they can go in and be the bad guy, if you will, right? They can say, oh, you've got to paint this wall. You've got to do all these other things because I'm partnering with my clients. I don't want them to ever feel like it's me, working against them. And so
Yep.
I want an objective viewpoint in there. But a lot of, and I'm not saying they're bringing in furniture. They're bringing in furnishings. Or they're working with the furnishings that are there and working with the existing sellers, right? They didn't see the value in that. And so that's a cost that I see the value. I know that we're going to be well positioned with photography and everything else. And I know the objections we'll get otherwise. So I invest in that. My
Okay.
stager goes in for the first 2 hours and I pay for that. My photography, and it depends on the price point. I still spend a lot of
course.
money on all of them, but my photography is expensive. If we need aerials and drones and video fly-throughs, then we include that. If I need, surveys drawn, we have that. Our EXP luxury division is off the charts, and so that gives a lot of reach too on a global scale, and Wall Street Journal and Robb Report and all these other things. So that's part of my investment, right? But I'm a part of that for those properties. All sorts of things. Sometimes I'll have my landscaper go out because the seller doesn't see the value in it, but I know that it's going to make a difference. And so I've been known to pay for a whole bunch of mulch and some, cleanups and things like that. So it just depends on each of the property, but it gets to a point now where I send a pre-listing packet. I have marketing that's sending, they're already knowing who they're going to work with. Even if it's my best friend, I still do all this because I want them to know what their referrals are going to experience in working with me. So I spend a lot of money, but I reap a lot of rewards.
What would you say, and of course we would never hold your feet to the fire, but could you give a general average dollar figure that you're making as far as an investment when you land a listing?
Let's call it on 750 plus.
I have no idea.
I mean, is it?
My assistant could answer that.
I'll do for you what I have to do to some of my clients on the lending side. Would you say it's under or over $5,000?
Under.
On average.
It's under 5,000.
Under 5,000,
Yeah,
is it? On average, under 2,500?
probably.
Under 1,000?
No.
No.
So between $1,000 and $2,500 on average. And again, I know it would be
And
a
luxury
sliding
could
scale.
go a little higher, but
Sure.
yeah.
So let's just call it like $1,200 to $1,500, right?
Sure.
As an initial investment on a listing. The reason that I just make mention of this.
Staging is the biggest variable there.
Well, the reason that I make mention of this is because I sit in these meetings on a semi-regular basis with teams and everything where I come in and do kind of like a sales presentation, but I am totally engaged on everything that's going on with the team lead and whatnot. And I see situations where we have people that are listing homes and, I'm looking at the listing and I know there wasn't a stager there. I know the photos are middle of the road. They're not iPhone, but they're middle of the road. Landscaping is another thing that you made mention of. I mean, there could be like a giant oil stain on the back patio, or the back patio needs to be power washed, and the agent's like, I'm not spending a freaking penny.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's when you're not really invested in your business as
I would
a
agree.
business. Yeah. I mean, my kiddo my oldest is in college now, but he's an entrepreneur and he created a business. I was like, this is amazing. So I need you to go power wash. I didn't ask clients to pay for a lot of these things. Sometimes you just have to be the hero in the situation because it's your reputation too.
100%.
And if your house shows well and sells well, by the way, your sign is in the yard and that pending sign goes up. People take notice of this kind of stuff. And if your sign's in the yard and it sits there for 6 months, they take notice of that as well. Same thing with reviews and referrals. I tell my clients when I'm sitting at a table, I know that after this transaction, if I do a great job, you're going to tell everyone you know about me. That's my goal.
Right.
And I set that expectation. And if I do a poor job, you're going to tell everyone about me. So I want to exceed their expectations. And so sometimes that means I'm in there power washing. Like I'm not too good to do any of this stuff, right? And so it's a reflection of my clients, but it's a reflection on your business as well.
Well, in the way that I'm hearing it, and this is kind of the clip that I want to get clipped out, is that, I know there's always an exception to the rule, but the exception shouldn't be the rule. If you don't have $1,200 to $1,500 to invest in a listing as far as marketing it or whatever needs to happen to it, it's a strong possibility you might be doing a disservice to the client.
True.
Because
if you get that scenario, partner with someone else that can help you through that and work through it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I see too many agents that, and they do deals. I mean, they're not top agents, so they're not, money might be tight, but they land a listing and it's like, you don't have $1,200 to $1,500 to invest, whether it's a credit card or anything, or maybe they just don't have the conviction that
maybe. But in the market when you came to Texas, in that market, I mean, you're shooting fish in a barrel at that point. So people were just throwing anything up there. But this market's very different. Especially as a listing agent, you have to be the best looking one, or you're going to be the runner up all the time. Right. And you have to figure out what the feedback is, and you have to be able to adjust. And like what Matt said, I have a lot of agents. I've got an agent right now that she's been in the business probably as long as me. And she called me. She's like, I know you do a lot of luxury. I've got this listing opportunity and this buyer opportunity. Would you partner with me on it? And I think that's a great idea for new agents as well. It's like, if you aren't
self-awareness.
If you're not 100% confident, and I'll do that, and I'll cover the costs on those things, and then we'll figure out what the splits are later on to help with that. But then now they have the experience. They're shadowing an experienced agent. They're not coming out of pocket, if they can't, and they have a win that they can share on their in their future. So I think there's a lot of ways. It's not like it's either this or that, but I think shadowing people or splitting deals with them or bringing them into a conversation is a great opportunity.
Well, I think it's safe to say that if one of the top listing agents in the Austin area is spending on average $1,200 to $1,500 per listing, and you currently are an agent with a listing that isn't moving and you haven't spent a dime, you need to ask yourself, what
do I need to change?
Yeah, what do I need? I mean, maybe it's not the price of the property. You priced it correctly. Maybe it's not,
I could go on for this forever.
Yeah, and
price, marketing, condition.
That's the only thing. And I'll tell my clients too, it's like, we can't control location, but we can control price and we can control condition.
Well, and my point is that would a $1,500 initial investment from an agent get the deal done?
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe not.
That's true.
Sometimes, and then again, if there needs to be an adjustment on a marketing plan.
Well, I know Elizabeth's crushing it in the listings.
Yeah.
And so if she's doing
I don't know if crushing. I mean, like, mine are moving, but they're not. But we're having conversations with our sellers on a weekly basis too. Like, we're making sure that we're on top of the numbers, and we're making sure we're showing them what's going on in the neighborhood. And I mean, the offers that come in, it's like, great news, we have an offer. I mean, we mastermind with all the top agents on a weekly basis. It's like, okay, are you guys sitting longer? Yes. Okay, what can we all do collectively? And so the good news is, when we are getting the offers, sometimes we have some work to do, but it's like, well, but they put an offer on our home. You just have to be in this market. It's not as easy as people think, and I think sometimes we make it look easy, and that's kind of an aha for me in this moment right now. Going, okay, I need to be more aware and sensitive when I'm talking to these other agents, because it isn't that easy. I mean, I got one today or last night. In 20 years, I've never had before, and I got to go. I think you were on the message too. I got to go back to the top agents. We all collaborated. I was like, I've got a new one here. I just got an offer in. The buyer's agent happens to be the lender on the same property. I've never seen that happen. I know that people have dual agent or dual license, but I've never seen that on the same one. I'm like, how do I approach it? Like, everything seems a little more. Well, I've got a lot of thoughts, but I think
I want to hear all of them, because I also have thoughts on that, and you're seeing a lot of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think I think there could be. I think in our business, I'm trying to, because I know we're being recorded here, I'm trying to say this nicely. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. And this is why I know it's allowed. I know I could work the buyer and I could work the seller on the same transaction, and I never do that. And I don't do that because I don't think the only person that wins in that situation, in my opinion, is the agent. Right? How do you objectively truly negotiate for your buyer and truly negotiate for the seller in the same transaction? You really can't, in my opinion. I think that's the same thing here. I'm like, there's so many red flags as a listing agent when I've got the lender and the buyer's agent on the same deal. And I'm thinking this through because I've never had it experienced before, but there's so many things that could go wrong. And I can't call the listing, I can't call the lender and say, tell me all about this buyer. What's going on? Because he's going to tell me everything I need to hear because he wants his client. Now, I can see both sides, though. Maybe he's getting them a better deal, or maybe he's cutting them, a different agreement, and it's going to be better for the buyer. But I don't know. I think there could be, I don't want to say ethics, but I just think that there could be a major issue, and I'm really nervous for my clients moving forward in this transaction. And they're asking me, what do you think? And I told them straight up, I was like, I'm very nervous about this. I've not had this experience before. I'm talking to the top agents. I'm talking to all my broker teams. It is legal. I just don't think it's best practice.
So here's something that I want to bring up that you've probably done it more than you think, and here's why. I am starting to see more, and it's lenders that are becoming real estate agents, not the other way around, and that's happening more. But what I promise you have just not been aware of is that I have real estate agents that approach me on a semi-regular basis and ask me, "Hey, am I eligible to get compensation from the loan as a real estate agent?" And so what's happening is that you're seeing a lot of FDIC companies that don't require NMLS licenses, which is what our license is, that they are signing on as an employee of that bank and being compensated, not the full commission, but a portion of the commission as a lender. But there's a loan officer, so you're never talking to the buyer's agent about the loan, but they are being directly compensated.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting one. So we'll see what happens. And my client, I mean, it's one of those listings that's a hard listing to sell. I mean, it's the location. It backs to 183. The sound wall's coming, but it hasn't yet. So there's all these things where my client's like, well, we got to get it sold. And then we're like, so everything seems to be challenging right now. Mm-hmm. And what I tell the newer agents all the time is seek wise counsel. Come to us. We're all here to help you help each other grow through this market. But everything's been a little bit challenging. What?
There is a monster cockroach right there.
No, that's
Awesome.
a wasp.
That is not a wasp.
That's a
big
cockroach.
old cockroach. But we do live in Texas, so it's whatever.
We get this place sprayed every 6 months.
I don't freak out about that because if it were a wasp, maybe.
That was a big.
You probably saw both.
I saw both of your
eyes.
faces. I'm
Fuck
like,
that
what?
thing. For a split second, I thought it was a fucking mouse. I was like,
If it was a mouse, I probably.
Oh my God.
No.
It was that big.
Yeah, he's big.
Where is
But
it?
I saw both of your eyes going, what did I just say or do?
No.
So it's not me.
All right. That just derailed me. Yeah. So
So the funny part is, I saw it earlier, and I kept my cool. I saw it go over here underneath the blue of him. Like, man, we probably should
That's the kind of establishment we're in, gentlemen. This
Yeah.
is awesome. I'm going to look around for more things. All right, Matt and Matt, we're good. We're good on the road.
yeah.
Okay, so real
quick.
quick, let's get back on this before this thing crawls up my leg.
That will be funny. Okay.
Let's talk about EXP.
Sure.
From KW,
Yeah.
and you saw the EXP opportunity. Why did you choose EXP? What about it was the opportunity that you saw, and then what's it like now, and where do you see it going?
So to clear something up, I didn't see the opportunity.
Okay.
I won number one at KW. I went home and I told my husband I was getting out of the business, and I was very serious. And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm on a hamster wheel," and not with KW, just in real estate in general. That's how all the models are. You're only as good as your next transaction. And what was happening is I sat down after getting my award, had 10 baseball caps that said capper. That does not pay my bills, right? I had tried to buy into the Keller Williams franchise models. I couldn't because they were all taken, or I'd have to move somewhere. And again, my husband was the breadwinner at the time, right? So, and I sat down and my team leader at the time said, "Oh my gosh, what a phenomenal year." Again, I didn't even know what my numbers were. I didn't know I was going to win top 10 because I don't pay attention to my numbers. And that's not me not treating it like a business. It's me focusing on what's important, right? I think that's because people are like, well, if you don't focus on your numbers, it's not a business. Well, yes and no. So she said, "Oh my gosh, that's a great year. Let's go meet next week and figure out how you're going to double that." And I was like, whoa. So I went home and I told my husband I'm getting out of the business. He was like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm on a hamster wheel. I've lost my joy." We talked about at KW God Family Business, and it was all business for me to do what I did. My husband was traveling all the time, my 4 kids, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. So he said, "Well, start your own company." What are you seeing? Are you seeing a mouse?
No,
or a
I'm
roach or
waiting for it
something?
to
You
crawl
keep
up my leg.
Laughing. You keep laughing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what else are we seeing around
Sorry,
here?
it's derailed me.
So
I'm
you
sorry.
want-
We're in the slums of Austin,
Yeah,
everybody.
I guess so. Jeez.
Anyway, so I said, I'm not interested in starting my own brokerage. Absolutely not. I don't want the liability. I don't want to do all the things that I don't want to be doing when you have
Right.
to, own your own business like that. And he said, "We'll go to all the companies are calling you to recruit you." I was like, yeah, because they need me more than I need them. It's all a lateral move.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them they weren't even capping models. Like I was in a capping model. And all these other ones, I'm like, the more you make, the more you take. So it's more of the same. What happened was my crew, my relationships, my people in Georgia called me and they were like, "Hey, Elizabeth, we could all work together again. Now, I was licensed in 2 states. Very expensive to do that, by the way, in the franchise models. And I said, how could we work together again? They're like, well, the way it happened was really bizarre because I was going to bring one of their teams here and do an expansion model, and we just decided not to do that. And I said, would you meet with somebody? And there are certain people in your life that when they ask you to meet with somebody, you don't even ask questions.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, sure, I'll meet with anybody. And that was Glenn Sanford. And Glenn Sanford was the founder and CEO of EXP. What was interesting is he came into Austin to meet with me. And people now are like, oh my gosh, Glenn came to meet with you. I was like, time out. He had this company called EXP that had 400 agents nationally.
Right.
My real estate market center had 650, right? So it wasn't like this, what it is now. But Glenn came to meet with me. He showed me the world. He showed me the avatars. I totally didn't get it. He talked to me all about rev share. I totally didn't get it. And I said, I am not interested in that. And he said, why not? Because Keller Williams, a lot of people followed me. People follow people.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing. So, but it created another job because those people weren't being served in the way that I thought they were being served. And it was kind of like a revolving door. I was going to say something else, but it was a revolving door. And they're like, next we'll go get more. And I was like, no. We told these people we can help them build a career. Why aren't we doing that? So I figured it would be more of the same. I was like, I am not interested in that. He's like, fine, what are you interested in? I said, you're the first company I've ever heard talk about stock for your agents. And Stefan Swanepoel, for your listeners that know who he is, to me, he's real estate royalty, trends expert, trends report, NAR, Remax, KW, all of them follow his trends. He's a expert in the real estate industry. And he writes this trends report book every year. And it's like $250 or something, $300, this report. And Glenn showed me that, and it said, here's what KW does, here's what Remax does, here's all the different models, not good or bad, just comparisons. And then there was a little piece that said, and the one you haven't heard of, the one to watch, is the Amazon.com of real estate. And it's called EXP Realty. And I saw that, and I sat there, and I go back to the opportunity, right, coming from Georgia to Texas. I sat there going, that's interesting. What if I had really paid attention to Amazon when they were trying to sell books online? What if we all jumped on that? That would be amazing. I think our life would be a little bit different right now. We wouldn't be sitting in an office with cockroaches.
Yep.
I know.
Right? Cockroach. We've only seen one, to be fair.
Only one.
Right?
That was big enough to be 2.
That was
Yeah,
big.
right.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? I was like, wow, that could be cool. And then on the other side, you're like, well, what if that doesn't work? And in everything I do, I think about, well, what's the worst that could happen? If it doesn't work, I can go back to any of these models because I'm a top producer and they need me more than I need them. So I was like, this could be fun. I need to get back to the basics.
There he is.
There he is.
There's our buddy.
Can we name him? Let's name him Stan.
I don't want to kill him.
Oh, yeah, he's big.
I can take care of that.
Dust him. Let's get it on. It's right on camera. It's perfect.
He's kind of fun. His
You
name's
want
Stan.
a shoe? Here, man. Take my shoe. Get him quick. Get him quick.
This is the best podcast I've ever been on.
Oh, fuck, he's still moving.
I promise that is the first cockroach I've seen in this place, and we've owned it for a year. I legit have this place sprayed every 6 months.
I love it. I love it.
I don't know where he came from, but he was our shortest guest.
Our shortest guest, yeah. So anyway, that's really funny. So I was like, if it doesn't work. But I wanted to get back to the basics. I needed to find my passion and love again because literally I was going to hang up my license.
Right.
And that was, 10 years in the business. So I truly believe in seeking wise counsel as well. So I talked to a number of the top producers. I'm like, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is really interesting. They're providing stock for doing the production I'm already doing. I got a baseball cap. I didn't even get a Starbucks card, right?
Right.
So what if, the stock was really low, but if you're just going to give me stock, what if that does something?
Yeah.
So I started talking to these agents. Now what was happening though is they're like, oh, we want to do this too. I will jump. But because I remember I had a safety net with my husband.
Yep.
I don't ever want anybody to jump. And I'm not Catholic, but I have Catholic guilt, right? So if something were to go wrong.
Right.
So I wanted to seek wise counsel. So I went to my team leader in Georgia, and he told me I was crazy.
Okay.
And I went to my team leader who just retired in Texas, and I said, I need to talk to you. This is what I'm looking at. He's like, oh, this is interesting. We explored it for 5 months. He saw the bigger opportunity. He saw the growth opportunity. I was focused on transactions and building my business and how I can serve my clients and how I can collaborate nationally and do things bigger. So we both came at it in a different way, which I think was kind of a blessing. And he was one of the top team leaders in all of KW, and he owned 7 market centers, and he had been at Remax, and he'd owned all these things. And I said, I don't know what I don't know. I've only been in one place for 10 years. Poke holes in this. So he said, you know what? I'm bored. I'm uninspired. I'm going to come out of retirement. Let's do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Again, I didn't understand what he was seeing. So people follow people. I had a lot of people follow me. But what I loved about the company, and it was very hard to build, but it was exciting, right? When you own something, you treat it differently. And all of a sudden, we all had ownership because I'm doing all these transactions, but oh my gosh, I have all this stock, and this is pretty cool. So we were putting the tracks in front of the train as fast as it would go. And for some people, they don't do well with that. For me, I did really well with that. I enjoyed that because I respected the people I was surrounded by. I have some really smart people. Glenn Sanford is brilliant. So we just started building this thing and not paying attention to the naysayers and not paying attention to the noise and not paying attention to everybody that said we were crazy. And then people were like, wait a minute, this is interesting. And so we went from, I'm agent 466.
What was the biggest obstacle? You said it was,
There's so many. I don't know the biggest. The biggest was, first of all, changing the way real estate was done that had never been changed in, 100 years? I mean, I don't even know.
Right.
Since Caldwell and Banker came together. Nobody had done what we had done. Nobody had been a virtual company. I mean, they had, but not in our way of doing it, right? And they didn't do well. Nobody had offered stock or equity or ownership. Glenn changed the model. He said, well, the agents are doing all the work. Why aren't they getting compensated? He loved what Gary Keller had done with Keller Williams because he had been a top 50 team. He was a real estate agent first and foremost in figuring out a way to help his real estate team thrive in the down market. And that's how EXP came. He didn't go out there to say, I want to start a company to make a lot of money and change the market. Like he was trying to solve for a problem he had and then recognized, a lot of other people have that problem as well. So I think the biggest challenge we had was, I don't know. I think it was actually a blessing. I mean, they were really negative, telling us we were crazy, and that I think that gave us fuel. Actually,
by they you mean like the industry at the
the
time?
industry.
Yeah.
But I think that was fuel, right? My friend always says, use fear as fuel. It was fuel. I think trying to open up all these states as one company with finding brokers and paying. I remember there were times we weren't getting paid. Onboarding was taking, a month to 2 or 3 months. It was painful. Some of my stock was lost, like all these things. So, but that's part of the growing pains and a growing process. And if it's comfortable, you're not growing, right?
Sure.
So, looking back, I'm agent 466. We have 87,000 in 27 countries now. Never in a million years would I have known that was going to happen. Now, the revenue share piece that I told Glenn I wasn't interested in, people followed people. So I brought, in 10 years, I've had 70 people, which if I was a team leader or a recruiter, I'd be fired because those stats are horrible.
Yeah.
I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on the Icon Award. The Icon Award was for the top agents where you got your cat back in stock. And I was the first icon ever named. I'm about to get 10 icons. And that changes lives because my first Icon Award is worth quite a bit of money. And I've got 10 of those plus everything else just doing transactions I was already doing.
Right.
So for me, the icons and the stock was important. But what happened organically, I don't want to say organically because I'm intentional with my relationships and I love all my people. But those 70 people I've brought to the company over 10 years are mostly cappers, are mostly icons because they're like, wait, why is Elizabeth Riley over at this company?
Yeah.
I don't recruit. I don't talk about EXP. I call it EXPing on people. Nobody cares. Because if I tell you about EXP, but I don't understand what your goals are and what your passions are and what moves you, then we're not speaking the same language.
Right.
Right? So if I can share what we're doing, then it fits with your goal and it fixes the pebble in your shoe. Like we all win together and we all are owners. And so we collaborate instead of compete. And my 70 people, I love on them. They're doing incredibly well because of what's important to them and their family. And now I have almost 11,000 globally. Like if you think about that, I've got probably the biggest brokerage in all of Texas. But I'm an independent agent just loving on my people and we're operating differently. we're making a whole lot more money, where I had challenges with because I grew up with nothing. Matt knows this, but I had a family. We had 140 foster children in 20 years. Wow. So we had a lot of love to give, but we had nothing else to give. I can't eat spaghetti or peanut butter and jelly or pancakes to save my life because that's what I lived on. Okay. But it gave me an appreciation. It taught me servant leadership. And now what I've recognized is the more money I make, the more people I can bless, right? And that's what moves me. It's not about one more transaction. It's how can I bless another person? How can I give more of my money away? And EXP's allowed that to happen. So for me, it's not about, and we've got amazing things now that we didn't have back then. It's so much easier now with our company. Our story is stronger. Our EXP luxury division is amazing. Our commercial division, wow, that's where there's a huge opportunity because that's where we were when I started Realty, and look at what's happened. Our international growth, our leadership is all real estate agent, real estate professionals, real estate backgrounds. Our CEO is on fire leading the industry. And what's interesting about him, again, when people do things because they love it and they're passionate and it's not a job to them, you see magic. Leo created Remind, which all the MLSs use and all the industry agents and people use around the world. I don't know about the world, the U.S. for sure. He built Remind and he sold it. He doesn't have to have a job. He could be fishing, in Miami for the rest of his life. But he's doing this because Glenn said, create your dream role.
Right.
And Glenn's the same way. He's like, well, Warren Buffett's in his 90s. Like, I'm creating ways to do things better for the agents. So it's been super fun to see and grow. And so that's why when I was saying growth, I'm going to step back a little bit because the transactions I can share with other people, but I can go help my agents around the U.S. and the globe grow their businesses and fuel their goals as well.
It's refreshing to hear that the majority of the people that you feel like that you were able to attract through your rev share was due to your personal production.
That's my attraction. People always say, well, how do you recruit? I don't recruit. Nobody wants to be recruited, but I can attract because like attracts like, right? So if top producers, Matt and I never knew each other, and I'm super excited that he's at our company now and we're all partners and we're all growing and I'm learning from him, right? So if I wasn't in production, those conversations are a little bit different. So I'm walking the walk, I'm talking the talk, I'm, relevant, I'm current, and it creates easier conversations than if I was checked out.
Well, and that's my point. It's like it's refreshing, right? And I think it's an awesome badge of honor. And at the end of the day, it's I've said this like 5 different times now in this podcast, but it's good to get advice from people who are qualified to give it.
Right.
Right. Like my joke is always I can do a ton of research and learn everything there is to know about hair care products, but I'm not really qualified to give advice on them. And the point of that is to hear that you're getting this attraction through production, I think is like super sexy, if you will, in terms of business.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it I think that right there is one of the most powerful clips for EXP because to your point, EXP on me, yeah. Right? I can't tell you how many times I've heard about the Lord Savior EXP from EXP agents that I know are doing minimal production. And I think, how are you qualified to go to other agents? Like, you got to come to the dark side type of thing. And I'm not saying it can't be done.
No, I get it.
But to hear about the way that you're doing it, that to me makes so much sense and is, once again, like you're qualified to, have agents come to you and say, hey, what is it that you're doing versus the other way around of, you trying to speak gospel about EXP because it comes across sometimes as commission breath with certain
absolutely.
EXP
And every company, I don't care if it's a real estate company or Chick-fil-A or a restaurant, like everybody recruits. Everybody needs people because if you don't have people, you're not in business. I think a big misconception with EXP, though, is that that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, if you really understand, it's funny because some of the partners that I have now, they're like, I knew nothing about EXP. Why didn't you call me? Mm. I don't call people, right? I just don't. Like, I don't. Again, you look like you're on top of the world. And until you have enough pain to be curious, I'm not going to call you. But look, you called me, right? So, but I do that in my business too. So I'm not doing anything different that's not who I am.
Right.
My clients call me. But I think the biggest misconception is that that's what we focus on, when in reality, EXP, this is not an Elizabeth Riley. This is a Real Trends. And we're the number one company in transactions. We do a lot of business. We're a real estate company, first and foremost. And here's the funny thing. If there's no revenue coming in, there's no revenue share. So only about 15% of our company receives any revenue share, because that's not the focus. I mean, my great friend Rich Tomancini out of North Carolina, he talks about EXP as a three-lane highway. The first lane is transactions, business. We're all doing the same thing. If you're KW, Coldwell Banker, Compass, I don't care. We're all selling houses. But number two, what most of them don't have is stock and equity for selling houses. I mean, Compass had options, but options are very, very different than awarded stock. And then when they, went public, they were all underwater. So I think a lot of companies are trying to do what we're doing. What's cool is we're ahead of the game because we innovated the industry. And if you're not innovating, you're not really doing anything different. So there's nobody that's ever going to be the EXP. We've got a ton of imitator companies, which is actually flattering. Because now what I think people have recognized is, when we told you EXP y'all were crazy for doing this virtual and stock and all the things. Now you guys have proven this. You're solid. You're built on a foundation. You're publicly traded on NASDAQ. Now you've got a ton of other imitators. I'm not going to call them copycats. Imitation is flattery. But they're never going to catch up. They're always going to fight for second place.
Right.
Because while they're fighting to figure out what we're doing, we're still innovating and we're still doing bigger things. And we just purchased Luxe VT. Really cool things that are going to help our agents sell more homes because we're a real estate company. But the equity piece just comes along with it. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to opt in. You don't have to do anything. It's like, oh my gosh, now you're an owner. You do your first transaction. We're all shareholders. You treat the company different. And then the third lane is optional. And only 15% of agents even understand that. So that's not where our focus is. But I think our competitors and other people that don't know who we are focuses on that too much when that's really not our focus. I mean, people are going to grow. What I would say to people is stay in curiosity. You don't know what you don't know. Sit down and have a conversation. And if you're having a conversation where people are pitching you, you're not in the right conversations.
Right. Maybe that's what that cockroach was trying to do.
Trying to tell me how gross and scary looking he was?
No, he was trying to join EXP.
Oh, Matt just squashed his dreams.
I just literally killed his dreams.
Or maybe he was door knocking. He wanted to see if he could list the place. I don't know.
My clients think I have my own brokerage. My clients don't care. People don't care.
No, you're right.
I mean, they're like, Elizabeth, you've got Luxe Property Group. I do. I just happen to be partnered with a pretty amazing international company that has a lot of resources that help me be a bigger benefit and value add for my clients.
Right.
Like my sellers love our luxury program. I am beating out all the luxury, quote unquote, luxury brands in listing presentations because they don't have the reach, they don't have the tools, they don't have the opportunity that we have, or they're spending a whole lot more money and still not getting all the reach. So I'm excited that EXP's doing so well as a company, but we're not under EXP. We're all on the platform. It's just a platform. And so I think people get so focused on one thing, and they're not open to ask questions, and I think that's where they miss the opportunity.
I got you. What else do you think we need to know?
Oh, a lot, and it was great.
I would love to have you back on. I mean, we're crushing it. We've been on about an hour and a half.
Really?
Uh-huh.
See, this is fun.
I'm glad you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, you guys are fun.
I feel like having you on would be good as far as really dialing into other topics and things. You know, this one's just trying to get to know you and all of the stuff, but we'll get this all clipped out. It'll clip out well.
Man, I'm always happy to share and whatever's valuable. And I actually love that it's face-to-face and not on a Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom podcasts, but it's hard to.
Super live.
I mean, super live in the moment.
We just went through a traumatic experience.
I mean, I think this is going to be one of your most memorable
for sure.
podcasts
It's never happened
because of
before.
Stan.
Yeah. I mean, we're approaching episode 150.
That's so cool.
So in almost 150 episodes, we've never had a fourth guest just join us like that.
Well, I feel honored.
And I'm not going to take it out either. I'm not going to edit it out.
Don't edit it out.
No,
I think that's what makes it so fun and real.
I agree.
I think the best parts are going to be the slow-mo clips when we look over here, she's like, what? And then she looks over here, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
I just was worried because I thought that thing's going to jump right on her. and it's going to be an absolute shit show.
No, I have 4 kids. Nothing scares me. So no, this is awesome. And yeah, there's so many great things that we can unpack, and not just me. I mean, it's not. I learned from so many amazing people that I'm surrounded by, and so Matt's just one of those.
Well, what usually happens after people come on the first time is that they kind of either listen, because we'll have it up on Spotify, we'll have it on YouTube, and then I'll put out like the shorts and everything. Those do very well, but I've had agents that kind of listen to it, and then they're like, oh my gosh, there's like 9 things I want to talk about now.
Yeah.
And this is, I would, like I said, I'd love to have you back on.
Anytime.
Well, awesome. Again, my name is Matthew Kemps. I'm the co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group. We have
Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
and
Elizabeth Riley, Luxe Property Group, proudly brokered by eXp Realty.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome.